الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أنبياء الله جميعا وعلى سيدهم وخاتمهم حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا رسول الله. صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله. يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة ويا عبرة كل مؤمن ومؤمنة، يا ليتنا كنا معكم فنفوز فوزا عظيما. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا قوامين لله شهداء بالقسط ولا يجرمنكم شنآن قوم على ألا تعدلوا اعدلوا هو أقرب للتقوى واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون. Refresh your hearts and your minds with a loud salawat for Muhammadin wa Ali Muhammad. If we were to epitomize and summarize the pain and the suffering in this world today, encapsulate that in one word, that word is going to be the absence of justice, the lack of justice in this world. This is the main cause of all the suffering, all the pain, all the wounds, all the murders that is being taking place today. Today, almost it has been 9 months of the war on Gaza. The number of the casualties, the dead and the wounded are 125,000. 2/3 of them are innocent women and children. 2/3. So why? Why all this pain? Why all this loss of innocent human souls? God says if one person gets killed, one person, for no reason, no justification, as if the entire mankind has been murdered. من قتل نفسا بغير نفس أو فساد في الأرض فكأنما قتل الناس جميعا. If one slay an innocent soul, single innocent soul, with no justification, seeking mischief and corruption, fasad in the land, corruption in the land, as if that person has murdered the entire mankind. So it's the absence of justice. The absence of justice. And the core and the quintessence of the message of Ashura, the message of Imam Hussein and his revolution and his mission is about restoring justice. God says in his book, I have created mankind. I have sent a long pool of prophets and messengers and apostles and books and scriptures for one reason. For one reason. لقد أرسلنا رسلنا بالبينات وأنزلنا معهم الكتاب والميزان. We sent all those prophets and messengers with their scriptures, with their books, with the scale Mizan, for one reason. So people stand for justice. لِيَقُومَ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ. لِيَقُومَ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ. This is why. This is why God created us, to establish justice on earth. لِيَقُومَ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ. This is the main reason. The main reason we worship God. The main reason we follow prophets and messengers. The main reason we follow the instructions of our holy books. The ultimate result of that is one, only one. لِيَقُومَ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ. People stand for justice, for universal justice. And today you left your home, you came here to participate in these holy sessions, which are being held worldwide. Hundreds of thousands of these sessions being held worldwide for one reason also. To be inspired by Imam Hussein, the leader of this revolution, the leader of this mission. The central message of Imam Hussein is to stand for justice, uphold justice, promote justice. لِيَقُومَ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ. And we must, at the end of these 10 nights, the message that we take home, the take-home message is that we implement justice. And if we don't do that, we are losers. If we are exactly the same people before Muharram and after Muharram, before Ashura, and after these 10 nights of Ashura, we are exactly the same, we are losers. We are losers. And we don't want to be losers. I'm sure that each and every one of you, the sisters, the brothers, men, young, even our kids, they don't want to be losers. We need to gain something. And the most important gift we gain during these 10 nights, my friends, you have to be assured of that. You should not have any doubt about it. The most important gift and the blessings we get is the intercession, the shafa'ah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and his daughter, the noble daughter Fatimah al-Zahra, and Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, and Imam Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. And you will get that shafa'ah. You will get that intercession. And you will see that the result of this intercession and this guidance in your life. We see it in this one and in the hereafter, in both. Many people love justice as long as justice works for them. As long as justice works for us, we love it. We promote justice. And we are ready to defend it if it works for me. But how about justice for others? Do I also defend them? Do I also promote justice for others? Do I sacrifice for the justice for others, or just for me and my country and my family and my tribe? This is important. We learn from Ahlul Bayt, we learn from the message of Imam Hussein that our justice, we should advocate not local or a tribal justice. We should advocate universal justice. Justice for all. Justice for all, not just for ourselves. God says in this chapter that I started the session with, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, O who you believe, kunu qawwamina lillah, stand for divine principles. Stand for God. Be loyal to God. Kunu qawwamina lillah. Shuhada'a bil qist. Shuhada'a bil qist. Witnessing for justice. You have to be a witness. A witness here in this context, it means an advocate, a soldier for justice, to implement justice. But not only for you. And then God continues to say, وَلَا يَجْرِمَنَّكُمْ, do not let شَنَآنُ قَوْمٍ, your hate for certain groups, certain countries, certain families, certain people, do not let your hate for others to swerve you away from justice. وَلَا يَجْرِمَنَّكُمْ شَنَآنُ قَوْمٍ عَلَىٰ أَلَّا تَعْدِلُوا. What does that mean? It means that I don't only advocate justice for my family, but even for those that I don't love. Maybe I don't love them, but still when it comes to justice, I have to treat them with justice. I have to seek justice for them, even if I don't like them. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam says, people around you, they fall into three categories, three groups. All the people that you see around you, they fall in these three categories. Number one, family and friends. Those are the closest people to you. With family and friends, deal with sacrifice. Meaning, with your father, with your mother, with your family, with your cousins too, with your extended family members, also with your friends. They are not your family, but they are your friends. And Imam Ali alayhi salam says, sometimes a friend is closer to you than your own sibling. Than your own sibling. رَبَّ أَخٍ لَمْ تَلِدْهُ أُمُّكَ. He says, sometimes you have a brother, he has not been begotten by your mother. Your mother did not deliver him, but he's your brother. He's your brother. Take care of your friendship. One night we're going to speak about friendship. The night where we're going to speak about the companions of Imam Hussein, I'm going to address this important matter, important subject of friendship. How do you maintain good and healthy friendship, lasting friendship? So Imam Ali says, with your family and friends, deal with them, treat them with sacrifice. Put your family before yourself. Put your parents before yourself. Put the interest of your parents before the interest of yourself. This is how you should deal with your family. I know it's difficult for many of us. If you say this outside, to people outside, they would laugh at you. They're going to tell you, no, I am first, and my mother is second, my father is third, my mother-in-law is number 200, They don't believe in that. But Imam Ali says, with your family and friends, sacrifice. Put them first. Put them first. Imam Ali says, the difference between a believer and non-believer, they both eat food. They both have to eat to survive. But a believer, before he eats, he asks his family, what type of food you like? So if they say, we like this type of food, he says, okay, I'm going to order this type of food. Whereas the non-believer, he eats with his own, according to his own desire, not his family's desire. This is one of the differences. Because a believer puts his family first. So with your family and friends, you sacrifice. With your people who are strangers, neither family nor friends, you don't know them. You meet them in the street, at work, you don't know them. They are not even your colleagues. How do you treat them? Imam Ali says, treat them with ihsan. With ihsan. Ihsan means wholesomeness, act of goodness, act of kindness. If they need help, if they are stranded somewhere at the airport, on the freeway, they need help, stop, help them. Don't turn your face and go. Treat strangers with wholesomeness. The day Ibrahim alayhi salam built the Kaaba with his son, he stood aside looking at the house of God, this magnificent building. It's a huge achievement. He built the house of God. He's the best architect. And the very first house of worship on earth, inna awwala baytin wudi'a lin-nas lalladhi bi Bakkata mubarakan wa hudan lil-alamin. The first temple, the first mosque, the first place of worship that has been built on earth is Mecca. So Ibrahim was proud of himself. So he stood with his son in the corner, looking at the house and saying, wow. Allah said, send Jibreel to him. God said to him, why do you say wow? Are you happy? He said, of course I'm happy. I built a house for you. God said to him, but I did not send you to build me a house made of bricks. I sent you to build people, to inspire people, inspire a human being. This house can be built by anyone. A believer, non-believer, educated, non-educated. A builder can build a house. But building humans cannot be done by anyone. It has to be an imam. It has to be a prophet. It has to be a noble man, a universal leader. You are a universal leader. I sent you to build people. Ibrahim said, oh God, how do you want me to build people? How? Show me. God said to him, whenever you find someone in need, stranger, you don't know him. He's in need of clothing, shelter, food, medicine, guidance, smile. Someone who's unhappy, depressed, sad. You bring him some smile, some relief, some solace. Stand with him, hold his hand, tell him, I am your neighbor, I'm your friend, I'm your brother, don't worry. Bring some relief. This is how you build. This is how you inspire people. I sent you for this mission. So Ibrahim decided from that day, he would never eat by himself. He would share his meal with any person. He started sharing his meal. We the American people, many times, we eat by ourselves. Don't you eat by yourself, alone? You take your sandwich with you, your lunch to school, you eat by yourself. You take your lunch box with you to your office, you just eat by yourself. People are watching you. You go, you fly with United Airlines, and you get your sandwich, and you eat the food, and people are watching you. God said to Ibrahim, don't do this. At least, according to the Afghan and the Iranians, do some ta'aruf. You know, say to those who are sitting next to you, you can share the meal with me. So Ibrahim decided to share his meal with people. One day, nobody showed up, and he was hungry. So he went outside to the street. A man was passing. Ibrahim doesn't know him. He said to him, are you hungry? He said, yes, I'm hungry. He said, come to my home. He went with him to his home. He sat there to eat when this stranger, he's a stranger, he took the first bite. Ibrahim said to him, it's appropriate to say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim before you eat. The man said, what is Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim? I don't understand you. He said, you are mentioning the name of God. God, the creator, the sustainer, the provider of this food. So mention his name. The man said, sorry. Sorry, I don't mention his name because I don't believe in God. Ibrahim was shocked. He said, you don't believe in God? I'm sorry that I have invited you to my home. The man returned the bite. He didn't eat. He left. He said, you don't have to be sorry. Nothing happened. I'm leaving. He left. As soon as he left, God sent an urgent message to Ibrahim through Jibreel. Jibreel came to Ibrahim. He said, God says, what did you do? Why did you insult this man? Ibrahim said, he's atheist. Jibreel said to Ibrahim, God says, I have fed this man for 50 years, provided him with food and shelter and health. I never questioned him about his religion or his faith. I never asked him one day, who do you worship? For 50 years. I created him. I'm responsible for him. If he's atheist, leave it to me. I decide what to do with him. It's not your job to judge people. It's not your job to interrogate them about their religion because you are giving them some food. So go after him and bring him immediately. So Ibrahim went outside running after this man. Oh, please, brother, please come back. Please, please, I urge you to come back. The man said, what happened? What happened? A minute ago, you didn't like me because I didn't believe in God. What happened? Why did you change your mind? Ibrahim said to him, do you want me to be honest with you? He said, yes, I want you to be honest. Ibrahim said to him, the same God that you refused to believe in him, he sent after me and he chided me and he threatened me because I have insulted you. The same God. The man said to him, are you honest? He said, I'm honest. This is what happened. The man said, then this means that your Lord is a kind Lord, merciful Lord. Ibrahim said, indeed, he is Arhamur Rahimin. He's the most merciful. He's the kindest. The man said, if this is the case, I bear witness that there is no God but God, and you are truly the messenger of God. My friends, treat people with kindness. Do not look at their nationality. Do not investigate about their faith, whether they are believers or non-believers. Don't ask them any question. They are a human being. They are entitled for respect and care. Imam Ali says, treat strangers with ihsan. And then he comes to the third group. So the first group was your family and friends. How do you treat them with what? Do you remember? I just said it 5 minutes ago. With sacrifice. And how do you treat the strangers? With kindness and wholesomeness, ihsan. How do you treat your enemies? He says, treat your enemies with justice. With justice. With justice. He's your enemy. But don't abuse your enemy. Use justice with your enemy. And this is exactly what God says in his book. وَلَا يَجْرِمَنَّكُمْ. Do not let your hatred towards a group وَلَا يَجْرِمَنَّكُمْ شَنَآنُ قَوْمٍ عَلَىٰ أَنْ لَا تَعْدِلُوا. You do not practice, you do not implement justice. اعدلوا. Be just. اعدلوا هو أقرب للتقوى. Be just with your enemies. Imam Ali was fighting some enemies, defending Islam, but he was just to them. He never abused them. In the Battle of Siffin, which was launched by Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan against Imam Ali, on the border between Syria and Iraq, Muawiyah came, his army came, and they occupied the bank of the Euphrates. And when the army of Imam Ali arrived, they had no source of water. They had no drinking water. So the army of Imam Ali, they pleaded to the army of Muawiyah, give us water. Give us access to the water. Muawiyah said, no, until you die of thirst. His son exactly did this with Imam Hussein in Karbala. Yazid did the same. And Yazid learned this from his father, Muawiyah. So they came to Imam Ali, they said, this is what Muawiyah is saying. No access to water until we die. Imam Ali said, I'm going to teach you something. You have to use force here. Use force to clear them off the water and get an access to the water. And this is exactly what they did. So the army of Imam Ali launched an attack and they cleared the banks of the Euphrates and they had access. Some commanders of Imam Ali came, they said, let's treat them with the same way they treated us. Let's cut their water supply. Imam Ali said, no. They told him, but they did the same to us. Imam Ali said, I am different. We don't do that. We do not deny our enemies water. We cannot. Israel today, they are denying the Palestinians water and food and medicine and other supplies. But in the school of Ahlul Bayt, we don't believe in this. We don't subscribe to this type of behavior, any human behavior. We don't do that. Imam Ali said, no, you cannot cut them off water. You can't. Same thing his son Imam Hussein did in Karbala. I'm going to speak about that tomorrow, inshallah, evening. When the army of Al-Hurr bin Yazid al-Riyahi came to intercept the caravan of Imam Hussein, they were thirsty. Thirsty in the desert. 1,000 fighters. They came thirsty. They came to fight against Imam Hussein. They were thirsty. They asked for water. Imam Hussein said to his companions, immediately give them water. Immediately. And give them plenty of water. Treat your enemies with justice. It's not easy. It's not easy. It's very easy to say it, but to practice it, it's not easy. It requires the highest level of faith and a trust in God. The highest level of faith and patience. But these things, we learn them slowly, slowly. If we are determined, especially during these nights. These nights, my friends, are transformative. These nights, it's worth that you drive 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour to come to the sessions of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, to these majalis. Why? Because they are transformative. And if you want to change yourself, this is the place. If you want to develop your body, where do you go? Where do you go? I ask the young generation, where do you go? To develop your muscles, where do you go? To the gym. And if you want to develop your soul and your brain, where to go? Where do you go? You go to here, to the Husayniyah, to the mosque. You come to this place. You come to the majalis of Ahlul Bayt and Imam Hussein. This is the place where you grow and develop your brain, your reason, and your heart, your soul. This is where you become stronger. This is where you follow Ahlul Bayt here. You follow their example. So treat your enemies with justice. Some people at the time of, when they have conflict in their life, when they have a fight, a dispute with someone who hurt them, someone who abused them, they resort to revenge, tit for tat. They resort to retaliation. They seek peace and a closure in retaliation. Do you follow sometimes some interviews on the TV at the end of a trial when a murderer is sentenced to life behind bars? They interview the family of the victim, the mother of the victim, the father of the victim. Do you hear this sentence? Usually you hear the sentence. Now we came to closure. We've been suffering since this guy was at large, or he was still not being sentenced. We were suffering. Now that he's being sentenced, we are at peace now. This is one way. Retaliation. Imam Ali says, don't do that. Forgiveness is better. Maybe you feel at peace when you avenge, when you retaliate against your enemy. You feel at peace, but this is not real peace. This is artificial peace. God says in the Quran, وَإِن تَعْفُوا أَقْرَبُ لِلتَّقْوَى. If you forgive your enemies, not only treat them with justice, sometimes more than justice, forgive them. Forgive them. Imam Ali alayhi salam says, the best quality of a believer is when he forgives He forgives when he is able to retaliate. Al-afu inda al-maqdira. Forgiveness, implementing forgiveness when you are able to exact revenge. You are able, fully able, to damage your enemy, to destroy your enemy. But you don't do that. This is called bravery. This is called real courage, real faith, real resilience, real trust in God. You don't exact revenge. You forgive. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and Imam Ali alayhi salam, and Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and other Imams are the best example. And I have hundreds of stories when they were able to capture, and they did capture their enemies, but they released them. They set them free. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in Mecca came, and people of Mecca, including Abu Sufyan, the father of Muawiyah, the grandfather of Yazid, Abu Sufyan, who persecuted the Muslims for so many years. He murdered many of them in Mecca, and he chased them to Medina to wage the battle of Badr, the battle of Uhud, the battle of other battles. On the day of the conquest of Mecca, the eighth year of Hijri year, the 8th year, he was captured. He was brought before the Prophet. The Prophet released him, forgave him. The Prophet forgave the people of Mecca who fought against him for so many years, who drove him out of his hometown, Mecca, who persecuted him when he was in Mecca for 13 years. He forgave them. This is what we have to learn. People seek peace in some medicine, in some tranquilizers, and it doesn't work. Still does not work. Islam says if you want to enjoy real peace of mind, forgive. Make your heart the center of forgiveness and love, even to those who hate you. I know maybe now some women are laughing at me. They say this Sayyid is crazy. Sayyid is crazy because he's saying, forgive someone who abused me. My husband abused me for 20 years. My sister, my mother, my friend, my cousin. How can I forgive them? Yes, I know it's difficult. But if you put your trust in God, and if you follow the example of Imam Hussein and his family, you will be able to do that. The problem is that we don't follow the example. We don't follow. We are not ready to follow the example of Ahlul Bayt. We love them, we adore them, but we don't follow their example. But if we are true believers in Ahlul Bayt, and we walk on their path, we really follow them, they're going to transform our life. And therefore you reach a point you are ready to forgive those people who hurt you. One of the characters of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, كان يعفو عمن ظلمه. He used to forgive those who abused him. Any person who abused him, male, female, powerful, weak, rich, poor, he says you are forgiven. And he is able to destroy them, but he does not do that. This is a lesson we learn from Imam Hussein. You know, on the day of Ashura, something happened in Karbala that you don't hear in the story of mankind. You don't hear this story anywhere except on the day of Ashura. Imam Hussein stood and he looked at the army and he started crying. So Zainab, Lady Zainab was standing next to him. She said to him, Aba Abdullah, are you crying out of fear? He said, no, not out of fear. I'm crying for those 30,000 fighters who are going to murder me soon today. And because of me, they're going to go to Jahannam. I'm crying for their fate, not for myself. I don't shy away from martyrdom. I love martyrdom. I came here to give my soul. These tears are not for me. These tears are for them. He is crying for his enemies, for the fate of his enemies. This is forgiveness. This is Imam Hussein. He learned this from his mother Fatima, from his father Ali, from his grandfather Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. God says if you forgive, you can exact revenge. You can seek retribution, qisas. But he says at the end of the day, وَإِن تَعْفُوا, but if you forgive, أَقْرَبُ لِلتَّقْوَى, it is closer and nearer to piety and peace. You're going to enjoy the inner peace when you forgive people. Your heart gets bigger and bigger. It will have more capacity. And you're going to be a leader, an example for your community, for your family. Don't speak about revenge. Always promote forgiveness. The favorite name of God. How do you begin your speech? What do you say? When you begin any speech, when you begin reading the Quran, what do you say? Doesn't he have 99 names? He has even more than 99 names. 99 is a symbolic number. God's attributes are endless. But you begin with what? With which one you begin? Ar-Rahman, the most merciful. Ar-Rahim, the most compassionate. We have to learn that. If we don't learn it today in Ashura, where do we learn it? Where? What college, what university, what institution teaches you forgiveness? America is in a crisis today. America now is suffering from huge crisis, huge division. You know why? Because there is hatred. Between the politicians, there is hatred. There is no room for understanding because they don't believe in forgiveness. They don't believe in respecting each other. They only believe in destroying each other. This is why the entire nation pays the price. We should learn from the school of Ahlul Bayt. If the Muslim community, if a Muslim family, if a Muslim neighborhood seeks prosperity and strength and unity, we have to forgive each other. We have to learn forgiveness. وَإِن تَعْفُوا أَقْرَبُ لِلتَّقْوَى. Imam Ali alayhi salam says, through justice, بِالْعَدْلِ قَامَتِ السَّمَاوَاتُ وَالْأَرْضِ. The entire universe is based on what? On justice. If you remove justice, the entire universe is going to collapse. He says, مَا عُمِّرَتِ الْبِلَادُ بِمِثْلِ الْعَدْلِ. Nothing brings stability, prosperity, affluence, strength into any country, except justice. Except justice. Why many of us left our countries back home? Was it because the weather was harsh? The weather is harsher here in New York with the humidity and the heat and the snow and the cold. The weather is harsh here. You didn't leave Afghanistan because the weather was bad or the terrain was not nice. I didn't leave Iraq because the weather was terrible or the terrain was not beautiful. And the Syrian and the Egyptian and the Yemeni and the Pakistani and the Indian and the African and they didn't leave because of the weather. They left because there was absence of justice, lack of justice. You traveled thousands of miles seeking refuge in other countries, escaping from what? From tyranny, from corruption. Imam Ali alayhi salam says, if you want to build strong country, strong community, implement justice. Nothing is more important than justice. I fear for the future of America, not because of the economy here in Wall Street, no, but because of the absence of justice. When we stand with ruthless people, when we stand and supply weapons to murderers who are killing women and children and bombing civilians and destroying 90% of Gaza being destroyed. 90%. And those people are homeless in the refugee camps in the streets. 90%. 2.2 people, 90% of them are refugees. God is not going to forgive us. God is not going to forgive us. Inna Allah yumhil. God gives respite. Wala yuhmil, but He does not forget. He doesn't forget. God is patient. But even God's patience has a limit. I fear for this country. And I fear for any person who helps the tyrants and the corrupts. God says in our book, in the Holy Quran, وَلَا تَرْكَنُوا إِلَى الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا. Do not side, do not support, do not aid the ظالمين, the wrongdoers. فَتَمَسَّكُمُ النَّارِ, lest fire is going to touch you. He is killing, you are not killing, but you are supplying him, promoting him, encouraging him, saying, Ahsant, good job, go after them. You are not the killer, but you go to the same place where the killer is going to go because you are supporting him. God says, don't do that. Don't do that. Imam Ali, the first day came to the Khilafah, the first sentence he said, وَأَيْمُ اللَّهِ لَأَنصِفَنَّ لِلْمَظْلُومِ. I swear by God, I will stand with the Mazlum, whoever he is or she is. I don't look at their face, their identity, their color, their gender. As long as that person is Mazlum, wronged, abused, I will support him. I'll stand next to him. وَلَأَنصَحَنَّ لِلْخَصْمِ. The wrongdoer, I will admonish him. I will sit with him and counsel him and tell him to stop. And if he doesn't stop, I will prosecute him. وَلَأَنصَحَنَّ لِلْخَصْمِ. And this is how we should be. We stand with the Madlumeen, whether they are Muslims or non-Muslims, whether they are believers in God or non-believers, as long as they are human beings, we stand with them. We stand with them. This is the core message of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And therefore, in the camp of Imam Hussein, there were people that were black and white, Arabs and non-Arabs, other nationalities. There were some people who were rich, some people who were poor, some people who were free at that time, and some people who were still slaves. They were still slaves. A man who was a previously Christian, John, his name is John. John, he was Christian, he converted to Islam, and he kept his name, John. And he was a slave. He was one of the supporters of Imam Hussein. Another man who was a Christian, Wahab, he was a Christian. He was a newlywed. On the way to Karbala, on the way, he was traveling. He meets Imam Hussein in one of the villages. He listens to Imam Hussein for a few seconds. These few sentences from Imam Hussein changes his life. Few sentences change his life. And he decides to accept Islam. Him and his wife and his mother. And then he says, since I accepted Islam, I'm going to come with you to Karbala. Where shall I go? I believe in you. You are my leader. You are my imam. You are my savior. So when he reached Karbala, and Imam Hussein was saying, Ala hal min nasirin yansuruni, his mother came to him. He said to him, Wahab, we just converted a few days ago. And what is better than this? Going with Imam Hussein. Go to the battlefield. Help the daughter of the Prophet of Islam. Help him. So you receive the shafa'ah, the intercession of his grandfather Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And this is what he did. This is what he did. In the camp of Imam Hussein, you find all sorts of people. Because he advocated justice. He was not biased. Imam Hussein did not advocate his tribe, his nation, his color, his Arabism. No, he stood for the entire humanity. This is why the entire humanity was represented in his camp on the day of Ashura. And 50 years before his martyrdom, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam stands on the pulpit of his mosque in Medina, and he breaks the news This is half a century before Ashura. One day the Prophet was speaking and Imam Hussein was a little boy sitting there. He said to his community, to his companions, to the entire Muslim community, that this man, this baby Hussein is going, Jibreel is telling me that this baby Hussein is going to be murdered by a group of my nation who attribute themselves to me, to my nation, ummati, to my nation. And still they seek my shafa'ah on the day of judgment. They expect me to intercede. لا أنالهم الله شفاعتي يوم القيامة. May God never give them my intercession, never grant them my intercession on the day of judgment. So Muslims, they broke in tears, the entire masjid. Imagine the Prophet is giving a speech. Muslims are sitting, listening to him, and he's saying this baby Hussein, who was maybe 5 or 6 years old at that time, is going to be murdered. And of course the Muslims, they loved Imam Hussein at that time. And they love him, all the Muslims, they love him. So they broke in tears. The Prophet says, Atabkun, do you break in tears? Do you weep for Hussein? وَلَا تَنصُرُونَهُ? And you are not going to aid him and defend him? This is 50 years before his martyrdom. So the Muslim ummah, Muslim nation was prepared for the day of Ashura. They knew what will happen. They knew. They exactly knew because the Prophet informed them. And if someone today tells you, why do you shed tears for someone who died 1400 years ago? And you hear some people tell you this, especially during this season. Some Muslims are going to ask, why do you cry? Why do you shed your tears for someone who died 1400 years ago? Why? The simplest answer, my friends, without arguing with anyone, tell them this is exactly the sunnah, the tradition of a Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I am shedding tears because his grandfather did the same in many occasions. During the lifetime of Hussein, when Hussein was still baby, the Prophet shed tears for him. Inside his mosque, outside his mosque, in the street when Hussein was baby playing with kids, the Prophet, this is in Sahih al-Bukhari. The hadith that I'm saying is in Sahih al-Bukhari, the most authentic book according to the Sunni tradition. The Prophet ran after him. Hussein started running. His grandfather is chasing him until he gets hold of him and he kisses him and then he cries and he says, Husaynun minni wa ana min Husayn. Ahabba Allah man ahabba Husayna. Hussein is of me and I am of Hussein. May God love those who love Hussein. This is the hadith of the Prophet in Sahih al-Bukhari. So what you are doing is not strange. It's not bid'ah, innovation. It's exactly the tradition of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But our tears should be followed with actions, by actions, not just tears. Imam Hussein wants more than tears. He wants a behavior. He wants commitment. He wants to see you being changed. If I'm doing something wrong, if I'm addicted to something bad, I have to quit during the days of Ashura. I have to make an allegiance, a promise, a covenant with God and with the servant of God, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, that I've been doing such and such bad things and I will quit, I promise. And your life will be improved, my friends. I've seen many people being saved by Imam Hussein during these 10 nights. Many people being guided. Many people being resurrected. They are new human being. I've seen them. Sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdullah wa ala al-arwah allati hallat bifina'ika wa anakhat birahlik. عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. Abu Hamza al-Thamali, one of the great disciples of the fourth Imam, Imam Ali Zainul Abidin, alayhi salatu wassalam, he comes many years after Ashura. He finds Imam Zainul Abidin sitting and shedding tears and crying. He says, Ya ibn Rasulullah, al-qatlu lakum adah wa karamatukum min Allah al-shahada. Martyrdom for you, it runs in your veins, in your blood. This is something normal for you and your family, for Ahlul Bayt, martyrdom. وَكَرَامَتُكُمْ, and then your honor with God. God is honoring you with martyrdom. Imam Zain al-Abidin says, Bala, Bala, Shakarallahu sa'yaka ya Aba Hamza. Yes, indeed, what you say is right. I'm not crying because we are being murdered or killed. ولكن يا أبا حمزة كلما نظرت إلى أخواتي وعماتي وهم يتراكضن في البيداء من خيمة إلى خيمة والمنادي ينادي أحرقوا بيوت الظالمين. I remember this scene, Ya Aba Hamza. On the day of Ashura, I could not move. I was sick. And I see that the commander of Umayyad army, he says, torch and burn down the camp of Hussein. And he calls it the camp of the wrongdoers. Can you imagine? Imam Hussein became a wrongdoer. They say Imam Hussein was a wrongdoer. أحرقوا بيوت الظالمين. And I remember the scene where women were running from one tent into another. Whenever they gather in a new tent, they burn it down. They go to the second one, the third one, the fourth one, until they engulfed the entire camp of Imam Hussein. There is no single tent was spared. So the entire camp was gutted. I cry because of that, because those women, they were not guilty. Women and children have no guilt. This is why I'm crying. Hamid ibn Muslim, one of the observers of the day of Ashura, he said, when they engulfed and they ransacked and they looted the camp of Imam Hussein, I was standing right there. So I saw a little girl. She was running, but her dress caught fire. So I feared for her. I was running after her and she was running. She thought I am one of the army of Bani Umayyah and I intend to capture her. I said to her, please stop. I am here to help you. I'm not here to hurt you, but to help you. She said, Ya Shaykh, anta lana am alayna? Are you with us or against us? I said to her, I'm only an observer, neither for you nor against you. I'm an observer. So let me help you. Let me extinguish the fire. So when I extinguished the fire, she said, Shaykh, Shaykh means you are an old man. Shaykh, since you are a kind person, can you show me the way to Najaf? I said, why do you want to go to Najaf? There is almost 80 kilometers. It's a long journey to Najaf. She said, because my aunt Ammati Zainab, she said, we have a leader being buried there. He's my grandfather, Amir al-Mu'mineen. And I want to go and seek refuge in his grave and tell him what happened to us. I said to her, but sweetie, you cannot do that. You cannot go by yourself. You will die. You will die in this desert. He said, then, if you don't take me to Najaf, can you take me to the bank of the Euphrates? I said, why do you want to go to the bank of the Euphrates? She said, because we have a hero there. He's supposed to defend us. He went to bring water, but he didn't come back. So he says, I directed her to the bank of the Euphrates. As soon as she saw the body, a decapitated body there, laying down on the bank of the Euphrates, before I asked her about the identity of this body, She said, Ammah, Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. Oh, Uncle Abu al-Fadl, oh, Uncle Abbas, come to our aid. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un wa saya'lamu alladhina zalamu ayya munqalabin yanqalibun. Afatimu law khilti al-Husayna mujaddalan wa qad mata 'atshanan بشط فراتي إذا للطمت الخد فاطم عنده وأجريت دمع العين في الوجنات. نسألك اللهم وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم يا Allah. Please raise your hands with your tears, with these broken hearts, and face the Qibla if you can, please. So we ask Allah with these holy nights, these sacred nights, for the sake of Imam Hussein and his family and his children and his companions, to inshallah bring relief and bring peace and bring an end to this war in Gaza and in Palestine and Lebanon, and bring victory to those people who have been abused, people who have been occupied, people who have been wronged, to bring victory for them, Ya Arhamar Rahimin. To accept our a'mal, our deeds, these majalis, people who attend, people who travel long distances, men, women, children who attend these majalis, they have needs, all of them, they have hajat. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the sake of Imam Hussein to fulfill these needs. Many of the people who'd like to come, but they are bedridden in the hospitals at home, they are sick, with severe sicknesses, with severe ailments. We ask Allah to bestow healing on them, inshallah, for the sake of Imam Hussein and his family. We ask Allah to hasten the reappearance of our Mawla, our leader, our Imam, Al-Imam Al-Hujjat ibn Al-Hasan Al-Mahdi Al-Muntadhar, Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajah وسهل مخرجه. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا، واجعلنا اللهم من أعوانه وأنصاره. وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات والشهداء، شهداء غزة ولبنان، ثواب الفاتحة مع الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.